What's going on, guys? It is Dave again. I'm back today doing a build for my buddy Brandon. Brandon and I used to work together through college when we used to work at GameStop before it went to crap. And we focused on school, didn't really game much. Now we're out of school, we both have full-time jobs, and I have a gaming computer, but he doesn't, so he's ready to get back into it. So today we're going to build in a Corsair 4000D case. We are going to put in an MSI MPG Gaming Wi-Fi Z490 motherboard with an i5 10600K, 16 gigs of G.Skill 3200 megahertz DDR4. We are going to use all of that with an RTX 3070 that I have to give a shout out to my buddy John for getting that for me. To cool the processor, we're going to use a Corsair H115i 280mm radiator. And for storage, I wanted to get an NVMe, but it wasn't going to be possible. So I got him a Samsung 1TB 860 EVO because it was on sale for $100, which is a pretty good deal for any 1TB SSD. And to power it all, we have an EVGA 750 watt Supernova power supply. If you haven't already, hit that like and subscribe button since it really helps me out with the YouTube algorithm. And with that said, let's build. For the budget that Brandon had provided me, the MSI Z490 MPG Gaming Edge Wi-Fi was the best choice. However, I would learn later on that it would also create a new headache for me that I wasn't expecting. I spent hours trying to get a 10700K in this build, but it was just not possible with how much the graphics card was already going to cost. So I settled with a 10th gen Intel i5 10600K, which should be plenty of power for the games that Brandon wants to play. Once I got the processor in, I went ahead and installed the G.Skill Ripjaws RAM. Now the radiator is where the headache started. Note to all, plug in your CPU EPS power cables before mounting the radiator to the top. If you're going to use a 280mm radiator, make sure that it fits with a motherboard that has a Chunky Boy I/O and VRM heatsink like this one. The issue I ran into is that the corner of the one fan kept hitting the rear I/O heatsink, and since I didn't have an H100i on hand, I had to improvise. I started sanding down the corner of the fan until eventually I was able to get it to fit without touching the rear I/O. Once I got the radiator attached, I wiped off the pre-applied thermal paste and used thermal grizzly paste on the CPU and got the pump mounted. I gotta give a massive shout out to my boy John, who got this RTX 3070 and was cool with me buying it off of him to use in Brandon's computer. Once the 3070 was in, I mounted the 3 fans on the front, and I am sure there is someone who is surprised to see that not every fan is RGB. Brandon didn't want to go crazy with RGB, so the balance of a few RGB fans and a few black fans was something he was alright with. Sadly, I could not squeeze an M.2 drive in the budget, but a 1TB Samsung 860 EVO will work without any issues. For anyone wondering why I am placing it in the second 2.5-inch bay, the H115i Elite Capellix comes with a Commander Pro, and the only place that you can fit that in this case is where the other 2.5-inch bay is on the back side of the motherboard tray. Once I got everything in and wired up, I installed Windows, set up the RGB lighting, and finally we are done. I can tell you after Brandon saw this on the display table that the grin on his face could not get any bigger. I am thrilled with how this turned out. I think it has the perfect amount of RGB if you want a little bit of lighting but nothing overkill. I can tell you that Brandon and I have spent a ton of time gaming, and he plays on a 144Hz 27-inch 1440p monitor and has no issues with FPS. If you haven't already, hit that like and subscribe button, and I'll see you in the next one.